Hi again, I'm Stephen Westner, CEO of Predictive ROI. Thanks for coming back for this week's video. And we're going to do a deeper dive into ingredient number 3. You may recall a couple of weeks ago, I gave 4 ingredients or shared 4 ingredients, in my opinion, what make up the recipe for success about how to build a strong virtual leadership team. And then a few weeks ago, I sliced apart that 4 ingredient recipe into ingredient by ingredient. So now it's time to go into ingredient number 3, which is find a mentor outside of your business. Before I share my perspectives on why that can be helpful and why that can be valuable, and maybe even some ideas on how to do that, I first would love to get input from you and in your experience, and have you sought a mentor outside of your business? And if so, what has the experience been? Good, bad? What are some of the things that you learned in that process along the way? As well as maybe some questions that you might have for us based on our experience and the experience that I'm about to share with you. So use the comment fields below. Would love to have your insight, would love to have your feedback, would love to have your perspectives on what your experience has been working with mentors outside of your business. Okay, so this is why I think that this is important as far as this ingredient in the overall recipe for building a strong leadership team, actually a strong business overall. Because there's perspectives, there's experience. So I think there's really 3 main reasons why you should seek to have a mentor to essentially walk alongside you as you're building and scaling a business. And the first one is their perspectives and experience, right? So that if you find the right mentor, he or she can add perspectives, experience, the trials and tribulations. As you well know, building and scaling a business is not all peaches and cream. You know, there are so many days and so many weeks and maybe even months or years where it feels like the progress is hard, the challenges are insurmountable, and it's just every single day feels like to be a new struggle. So having the right mentor walking alongside you and your leadership team can offer you the perspectives and experience, the trials and tribulations, how they got past that in their own business, that can not only be encouraging, but a great learning experience that you're not going to find perhaps anywhere else. So that's the first thing, the perspectives and experience. The second thing is also the accountability. We all need, and the best in the business, the top business owners in any industry, will tell you that they've had a mentor or mentors who have given them the hug and the push that they needed, or hugs and pushes that they needed. Meaning that when something is going really, really well and it needs to be celebrated, then there's those hugs, those virtual high fives, right? But sometimes too, when things are going really bad, sometimes we need a shoulder to cry on, and sometimes we need a hug from that perspective. But then also the accountability kicks in too, and we need a push. We need somebody to say, you know what, you're better than this. This is not your best work, or this is not your team's best work. And so that's where the right mentor will step in, and he or she will know whether this is where you need a hug or whether this is where you need a push, right? And then, in my opinion, the third reason why, or the third maybe area that a mentor can really add value to your business, might be in the introductions that he or she might be able to make for you, or open doors for you. For example, maybe you've watched or listened to episode 42 of Onward Nation, where I had an opportunity to interview Gary Vaynerchuk. In fact, last week's video was a little clip from that overall interview that I had done with Gary. That was, it was about 5 years ago, October of 2013 to be exact. Well, I was able to sit down with Gary because of Darren Hardy. And Darren Hardy was a member of our board of directors at the time here at Predictive ROI. So that was probably 6-7 years ago now. But then he reached out to Gary and said, hey, I'm speaking for Stephen at this event that the Predictive ROI is doing. I think you would be a phenomenal speaker too. You should join me along with the other folks who are going to be speaking there. And part of this process is, it'd be really great if you did a video and so forth. And then I followed up on that and had a conversation with Gary and his team and so forth. And then we were able to make it happen. But it's because Darren was on my board of advisors that he was able to start that process. He was able to make that type of high-level introduction. And then obviously I had to perform as a result of being introduced, and then I had to do a good job. But that's some of the value that having a great mentor as part of your business, that might be an area that he or she might be able to do for you or add value for you in those introductions. Okay, so let me now take you behind the curtain as to how we're doing this now, sort of the rhythm and process here at Predictive ROI, because my hope is that in full transparency, that's going to be really helpful to you too, to illustrate how we're doing this on a daily, weekly, and quarterly basis. So right now, one of the mentors that we work with very, very closely, his name is Drew McClellan, and he's the CEO of Agency Management Institute. And when I say right now, we've been working with Drew for the last several years, and he has really added a significant amount of value into our business, Predictive ROI. And so this is how that happens. On a quarterly basis, and this is how it relates to the leadership team, and then I'll also share with our overall team kind of two different perspectives. So with our leadership team, so Eric Jensen and I, along with Catherine Bessler. So Eric is our VP of Client Services, so Vice President of Client Services, and he's also my business partner here at Predictive ROI. And Kat is our Director of Content Marketing and also a member of our leadership team here at Predictive. And so the three of us form the leadership team. We meet with Drew at least on a quarterly basis, and in person, where we're going through our big quarterly rocks. We're working through the Traction process based on the Traction book, and in a phenomenal book. So written by Gino Wickman, and maybe you've read it and studied it. If not, I highly recommend it. So we're going through that process on a quarterly basis and reviewing the rocks and reviewing issues. That doesn't necessarily mean big problems within the business. That's just a Traction term, issues. The things that need to be solved. And they could be problems, but they could also be opportunities too. And so we're going through rocks and issues, and we're looking at our team. Are we aligned with our values? And what could the leaders be doing in a better, deeper, more awesome way? And so it's really kind of that quarterly scorecard. And we work with Drew on that process, and it's deep, and sometimes it's very emotional, and sometimes it's really hard, and then other times it's really awesome because we see the progress that we're making. Only a mentor could really do that. Someone who really knows you, someone who really is vested and cares about you and loves you, but then also enough to give you that push when you need it. That's how our mentor can really hold you accountable. Okay. And then also with our entire team, Drew teaches a number of different classes through the Agency Management Institute. And so our teammates will go and attend those workshops, and that is on practical skills and knowledge they can bring back and apply to not only their position, but perhaps share with other teammates, but then also for the betterment of our clients. All right, so a great mentor will work with your team and understand the dynamic between team and leadership team and then clients, and then be able to provide that advice and insight that helps you build and scale your business overall. All right. Not every mentor is obviously going to be teaching workshops as Drew does, but just kind of instructionally giving that kind of framework. So how do you go about finding a great mentor? That's a question I'm often asked. And so in my opinion, this is the right recipe for that. But I would also be very interested in your opinion too. So I mentioned a few minutes ago about leaving some questions, concerns, feedback, your experience in the comments field. I'd also be very interested in the process that you've used to find a mentor. So this is the process that has worked well for me, and I've recommended it to others. So in my opinion, it's this. Finding somebody in your industry, and maybe they're no longer working in your industry, maybe they have retired, whatever the case may be, finding that very successful person, the person who has built a business like yours, who has worked in an industry perhaps like yours, who has accomplished all of those things professionally and personally that you would like to accomplish. And then invite that person to lunch. Reach out to that person, whether that's through email, social, maybe a mutual friend, maybe an introduction. Like I was able to reach out to Gary because of that introduction with Darren, or from Darren. So same thing, find that person who has done exactly what it is that you want to do, and then reach out to that person and say, can I buy you lunch? Can I buy you dinner? Can I come to your office? and then interview that person. It could be in a formal way, like with a camera, or maybe with a recorder. If you're going to maybe convert that into, like on your phone, maybe you're going to convert that into a podcast interview, or maybe you're just going to take a lot of notes and then maybe turn that into a blog post. But interview that person to really gather the meat and so forth. And of course, ask that person for their permission before you turn that into a podcast or a video. But the point is that you interviewed that person, you've collected all this subject matter expertise, set the interview aside for a second, or like airing that content aside for a second, and then take those lessons learned and apply them. Implement the advice that they suggested to a T. You take great notes, you implement what you learned, you share that with your audience because that's probably going to be helpful to them too, and then you loop back to them and say, okay, you suggested I do 1, 2, and 3. I did 1, 2, and 3. These were my results. Can we come back to the table because I'd like to learn more from you? They're going to say yes. Why? Because most people who are asking them for their advice, they often never implement. You're going to stand out. You're going to be like in the 1 to 2% who actually took action on that advice. So of course they're going to want to sit down and chat with you and share more insights and so forth because you've proven yourself to be an exceptional mentee. There is definitely more responsibility on being the mentee than being the mentor. You have to then execute. And if you do that, you have really proven to that mentor that you're quite capable, that you're sincerely interested in what they have to share, and you're taking that and applying it for success. So that's the recipe. Those are the 3 things that I think that you can absolutely get out of having the right relationship, with the right mentor, then how to find one, and then also how we have done that quite successfully here at Predictive ROI, because we've had the good fortune of working alongside some exceptional mentors. And you can have that exact same thing too if you get really strategic about the process. So I hope that was helpful. Would love to know, thumbs up or thumbs down, thumbs down, using the comment fields below, because your feedback is how we get better each and every week. So please do let me know what you think. Until next week, I wish you the best of success. Onward with gusto.